Welcome to today's class. As usual, we're in basic science class, and before we just move into today's topic, I have an intro question, which is, where do we get petroleum from? Where do we get petroleum from? I know most of us were privileged most times to be, maybe when you were on transit, you stopped by at a filling station and you got your car, maybe, or the driver got his car, the transportation you were in got their car filled with petroleum at the petrol station. But is that where we really get petroleum from? Is it at the filling station? So you're going to get to know where exactly petroleum comes from by the end of today's class. That leads us to our topic, which is renewable and non-renewable resources. Renewable and non-renewable resources. Just as the name implies, there are some resources in our environment that are renewable. They replenish themselves. They can replenish themselves. You don't need some formal setup for them to replenish. And the other is non-renewable. That means they can finish, they don't renew themselves. So we want to look at renewable and non-renewable resources. And what is our objective for this class? At the end of today's class, you should be able to define renewable and non-renewable resources. You should be able to identify examples of renewable and non-renewable resources whenever you come across them in your environment, in your classroom, in your homes, as you travel, as you move from one community to the other, as you come across every material, you know this is renewable and this other resources is non-renewable. And thirdly, you should be able to understand at the end of this class, you should understand the importance of conserving and using renewable resources responsibly. Since we know that those resources, they can replenish themselves, do we need to manage them? Do we need to manage those resources responsibly? Yes, you're going to know, you will understand the importance why we need to conserve these renewable resources responsibly. So what are renewable resources? Renewable resources are natural resources that can be replenished or replaced in a relatively short period of time. It doesn't take time before they replenish themselves, before they replace themselves, at a very short period of time, and they are natural. They are natural. So these resources are derived from natural processes and are considered sustainable. You can sustain them. So when we're talking about renewable resources, what are the examples of renewable resources? We have renewable resources include sunlight. The light, yes, the sunlight. Just get outside there and look into the sky. You see that the sun is shining. It is renewable. Wind energy, you can feel the wind touching your skin. They are renewable. Water, the water we have, whether it's in the ocean, in the rivers, in the streams, anywhere you have them, maybe in the ponds or dams, they are renewable. They are a source of renewable resources. And the biomass, you're going to get to know what biomass are in the course of this, and also the geothermal energy. These are all renewable resources. From the slide, you can see the sun is shining, and as I earlier said, you can just step outside and look into the sky. You can see the sun. So it's a source of renewable resources. You're going to see how we're going to convert them, how they will be useful to our environment, to us as humans, and also water too. They are renewable resources. And the wind that I talked about earlier on, all these are renewable resources. For example, sunlight can be enhanced through solar panels. Maybe you might have got, maybe you might have seen some buildings and you check on top, like on top of the zinc, and you see something like some panels that are just joined together, very many, and you'll be thinking, what is this called? They are called solar panels, and they help us to harness the energy gotten from sunlight in order to use them to generate electricity. You might have gotten to some houses and you look at them, they are always having like 247. That means every day, not every time you get there, you see that they're having light, and you checked maybe the other houses, they are dark, they don't have light. You are wondering what is happening here, why are these people having light and why are the other persons not having light. If you check very well, you will see that these people have connected so they've connected they are generating their electricity from sunlight using solar panels. Wind energy also can be captured by wind turbines. The other picture we have here is called wind turbines. So wind energy, you can capture wind here and use it to generate electricity. The advantages of renewable resources is that they are virtually limitless and do not deplete over time. Have you ever, maybe you woke up one day and you just got outside and you didn't see the sun shining, and it's rare, right? It's weird, not even rare, it's weird, because every day the sun shines. You see that the sun is shining every day and the wind blows every day. So they are limitless. You cannot limit, they are not limited, and they don't finish. Maybe you got outside one day and just said that the sun has finished, or that's why it's not shining, or the wind is no longer blowing because it suddenly disappeared. No, they are limitless. So, and they do not deplete over time. So that's why we call them renewable resources. So let's look at non-renewable resources very quickly. You should also already know by now that the non-renewable resources are direct opposites of renewable resources. And when we are talking about non-renewable resources, they are also natural resources, just like we have in our renewable resources, but they cannot be easily replenished. If you remember, in the renewable resources, I told us that they can be replenished within a short period of time, but our non-renewable resources cannot be easily replenished or replaced once they are depleted. Once they are maybe getting finished, or you're getting, as you are using them, they are reducing. You don't easily get them replaced on time. So the resources have been formed over millions of years and are present in limited quantities. Our renewable resources are present in limitless. That means they don't have limits. But our non-renewable resources, they are present in limited quantities. So they are limited, although they've been present there over a period of time, millions of years, yes, many other, but you can finish them. That is the truth. So non-renewable resources include our fossil fuels, which include the coal, oil, and natural gases. So these are non-renewable resources. We have our minerals such as iron and copper and others too, and nuclear energy like uranium and the rest. So these are non-renewable resources, and they cannot be replenished or replaced easily once they are depleted. Once they are depleted, they cannot be replaced easily. So let's look at fossil fuel. I told us that fossil fuel is an example of non-renewable resources. For instance, they are formed from the remains of ancient plants and animals that have undergone pressure and heat over time. What do I mean by this? Fossil fuel, they are gotten from, when we talk about ancient plants, we are not talking about, not the ancient we know, but plants that have died over a long period of time, they've decayed. Same thing with animal, and they have gone into the ground, into the earth, and they have been worked upon by pressure and heat over time. So they are changed into fossil fuel. For example, maybe there was a ship capsized in the ocean or on any river, and maybe a boat also capsized, and people, they could not rescue those people. They would decay in the water. The ship will sink down into the bottom of the ocean, and after a period of time, if you notice, we say over 1 million years, it can up to that. So after a period of time, they are worked upon by pressure and heat to generate our fossil fuel. So they provide a significant portion of the world's energy. So it's not just about Nigeria, no, of the world. They provide a significant portion of the world's energy, but their supply is finite. That means they can finish. Do not forget that we are under non-renewable resources, and one of their characteristics is that they are limited. So they are finite. They can be finished, and they can be exhausted over time. over time. If they are not used responsibly, they can be exhausted over time. So let's look at examples of renewable resources in details. One is solar energy. The sun is the source of solar energy. Sunlight, as I earlier explained, can be converted into electricity using solar panels or solar thermal system, or used directly for heating and lighting purposes. Back in the olden days, when light has not really been generated, how do people, when there was nothing like matchsticks, have you ever thought of how they were able to light and make their meals, cook and all that? Have you ever thought about it? How they did it was that they will either use stone to smash each other, or you can get a magnifying glass. This is even an experiment you can carry out with the aid of your parents or your school teacher. You get a magnifying glass, get a paper, yes, any paper whatsoever that you get, and when you get your magnifying glass and the paper, go into the sun, go outside and set your magnifying glass to the sun, directing it to your paper. You're going to generate electricity. So you're going to generate light. You see that fire will start burning. So you've harnessed the energy from the sun for it and for your lighting purposes. That's how you can use it. That's one aspect. But now in a more brighter view, that's when we talked about the solar panel. So the energy from the sun is trapped by this solar panel, and because of the way it has been built, it can now be converted into electricity, generating light at home, and you can use it for your home appliances. So you can see that, and this they don't finish over time, they don't get depleted. Every day you wake up, you see the sun shining. That is it. So you can use it anytime. It doesn't deplete. It gets replaced or replenished within a short period of time. The only time you won't find the sun is at night when you are asleep. So it's just within the period of 12 hours. But the next 12 hours you see sunlight. So it gets replaced within the next, before you know it, within a short period of time. Number 2 is your wind energy. The wind turbines, as I earlier explained, capture the kinetic energy of the wind and convert it into electricity. So just the normal wind is not a special kind of wind. No, the normal, you can feel the breeze on your skin, right? Yes. So we get something, the name of what it's used to capture the energy from it is wind turbines. So they capture the kinetic energy of the wind, and through the way it has been built, they are converted into electricity, which can be used in homes, in industries, and anywhere that light is or electricity is needed. Number 3 is our hydropower. You'll be surprised that we can use water to generate electricity. In Nigeria especially, we use water to generate our electricity from we call the dam, Kenji Dam, yes. So you can enhance the energy from water. The water that is flowing either in rivers or dams. In this case now in Nigeria is dam. We use dam, the Kenji Dam, to generate electricity. And in this picture you can see a dam there, which they use to generate electricity. So your water you can't finish water. Can you finish the water in the ocean? It's not possible. So you can see that it's limitless. It's unlimited. That is what is unlimited. So they are available over time. And maybe sometimes, maybe during the dry season, they might be depleted. But during rainy season again, you see water comes up again, and there is water. So they can be replaced within a short period of time. And the next is our biomass. I told us that in the course of our lecture, we're going to know what biomass is all about. So what is biomass? When you look at it, when we're talking about bio, that means it's something related to life. They were once living. Biomass, these are organic matter, and every organic matter once live. That is whether it's gotten from your plant or from your animal, because plants and animal, they are living things. So your organic matter, such as agricultural waste. When we're talking about agricultural waste, we're talking about your plants, or the food you got from them, or their fruits, their leaves. Over time, or even the wood, over time you can burn them to produce energy to produce heat, to produce electricity or biofuels. There was a time in Nigeria, I don't know if they still sell it, we have a biofuel stove, and there was they converted organic matters into fuel. So you don't need to use your kerosene, you don't need to use maybe your gas. No, you want to use your biofuel to generate or to cook, to generate your heat. And the next one is geothermal energy. What are geothermal energy? These are heat energy from beneath the earth's surface, and they are used for heating or generating electricity. So they are heat energy from beneath the earth's surface. So the earth's surface is always there, so you cannot finish it. You cannot finish it. So you get your heat from there and use it to generate electricity. So we have seen the examples of different ways through which we can enhance our renewable resources. We've talked about the sunlight, we've talked about the wind, through the use of the wind turbine for sunlight, solar panels. We've talked about the hydropower, that is using water to generate electricity, water from either the ocean or rivers or dams. The main thing is that you're generating electricity. Then your biomass, that is your organic decays, organic matters that have decayed over time or that you burn to produce heat energy. And we have the geothermal energy. So we're going to move quickly now to examples of non-renewable resources in details. We want to look at examples of non-renewable resources in detail. Number one is your fossil fuels, and our fossil fuel is divided into three. We have the coal, the oil, and natural gases, and all these, they are non-renewable energy, as I said the other time, and they are formed from remains of ancient. I told you that it's not the ancient, maybe in code, not that kind of ancient. You think these ones, they have gone into extinction. That is not what it means. So I told you that it's about the animals and plants that have decayed over time, and they have been worked upon by heat and pressure, and they now generated fossil fuel, either plants or animal. So number two, we have our minerals. So resources like iron, copper, gold, and aluminium are extracted from the earth's crust and used for various purposes, including construction, manufacturing, and technology. Then the next is we have our nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is generated through nuclear reaction by using radioactive materials like uranium. You can use radioactive materials to generate electricity, and you can use them to, like example, the example we have is uranium. So let's look at importance of conservation and responsible use. So importance, I told us that you should be able to understand why we need to conserve our renewable, whether they are renewable or not renewable, why we need to use them responsibly. You know, sometimes when you are seeing something in excess, you tend to just use them anyhow without thinking of the next day. You just, it's always there. The sun will always shine. The wind will always be there. The water will always be there. But there's a need, there's an importance for us to conserve these things, whether they are renewable or not, and to use them responsibly. So let's look at the conservation. Conservation refers to the careful and sustainable management of resources to ensure their availability for future generations. That means you're not just thinking of yourself alone, you're thinking of the future, of other persons that will come. What if the people that were before us, they used it anyhow, they didn't conserve it? These days we will not be having them. So there's a need for us to also consider other persons coming after us. So we need to carefully sustain and manage these resources for the next generation. So it is crucial to conserve both, whether they are renewable, as I said earlier, whether they are renewable or they are not renewable. It is crucial to conserve them, these resources. Renewable resources must be used responsibly to prevent overutilization and ensure their continuous availability. For the fact that we say that they can be replaced within a short period of time does not mean that we just use them anyhow. That's overutilization. No, you still make sure that you carefully conserve them to ensure their continuous availability. Let me make an example, an allusion to sunlight and solar panels. Now you are converting the energy from sun to generate electricity. if you decide to overload your solar panel or yes, with some appliances, you will get to understand that depending on the capacity of the solar panel that you have, so you will get to understand that with time you might not, maybe throughout the night, through the day you're going to have light and you'll be able to use it, but at night the energy you generated from that sun might not be available then. So you are being short-circuited, you are being cut out of it because you didn't use it responsibly until the next day before the energy, the sun again will shine, and then you can be able to utilize it. So if you're going to have the best of this, whether renewable or non-renewable, you have to make sure that you conserve them for their continuous availability. For example, proper forest management is essential to sustainable harvest timber without depleting forest. You know, some of us just feel like that the trees will always grow. Yes, they will always grow. So you just enter into the forest and you just fell any tree without looking back, and you're not planting anyone there. And the ones that are standing, you are not even allowing them to mature, and you harvest them and you take them, you will deplete the forest, which will now have an adverse effect on the environment. It's going to later have an adverse effect on the environment. So non-renewable resources, on the other hand, should be conserved to prolong their availability and reduce their environmental impact. Non-renewable resources such as like fossil fuel or the minerals that we talk about, we have to conserve them because we already know that they are limited and they cannot be easily replenished or replaced over a period of time. So this calls for wisdom that we have to use them wisely and reduce, in order to ensure their availability, to prolong, so that they won't just finish and then we are left with nothing. So you have to use them wisely to prolong their availability and reduce their environmental impact. So let's look at, we have looked at conservation. How do we responsibly use our resources, whether it is the renewable or the non-renewable? Responsible use involves utilizing resources in an efficient and sustainable manner. It includes reducing waste. So because you are seeing something every day, for example, maybe in your house, I'm just using this as an example, in your house there's always food. And because you're always finding food, you just waste it, and because anytime you get home, you're going to see food. No, so you just feel like, anytime I get to my mom would have cooked. That's how you say. So I'm going to make food at home, and you just binge on some food or you waste them. You know, it's not wise. Same thing with our resources. So because they are available does not mean that we should waste them. So we should reduce wastage, maximize them efficiently, finding alternative solutions. Even as we use this one, okay, what other alternative can we use? Imagine that we are just depending on the energy from water alone, maybe through our dams and the rest, and we don't look for an alternative solution like the sunlight, generating electricity from sunlight, or generating electricity from the wind. So as we are using this, reducing waste, we are maximizing them, and we're also looking for alternative solutions. Okay, what other things can we use in place of this, in case maybe one day we wake up and this is we no longer have access to this? What other things, in what other ways can we generate this that mostly affect us? So as we're using this thing, you have to responsibly make use of them. So responsible use of renewable resources entails employing technologies that minimize environmental impact and promote long-term sustainability. So as we're using this, for example, we're talking about renewable resources now, so it entails that we must employ technologies that maximize, minimize environmental impact. That means their negative effect on the environment, and also prolong long-term sustainability. So for non-renewable resources, we can, how can we responsibly use them? One is to develop strategies for energy conservation. We conserve these things, we conserve them, energy conservation. We should also employ alternative energy sources. Okay, in place of fossil fuel, what other things can we use? I talked about biofuel, and biofuel is renewable, I mean to say. So in place of fossil fuel, we can use our biofuel to generate electricity. Okay, another one is promoting recycling and reuse of minimize resource consumption. To minimize resource consumption, I mean to say. So we promote recycling. We recycle this, since we know that these things, they are not renewable in the sense that they are limited. One, not only limited, you can't easily replace them. We promote recycling. So we are avoiding wastage of any kind. So any waste to get from this, what can we channel it into to get another thing that will be useful to us? So we are promoting recycling and reuse of to minimize resource consumption. If we conserve both our renewable resources responsibly, we can minimize our carbon footprint, reduce environmental degradation, and mitigate climate change. This is where we're talking about our chlorofluorocarbon. You would be, and later you'll be taught these things. When we're talking about things that deplete the earth, so we degrade our environment. So we have to use this thing responsibly, whether they are renewable or non-renewable. Additionally, responsible use of non-renewable resources ensures the availability, I mean to say, for essential applications, and provides a smoother transition to renewable energy resources. So when we use the advantage of responsibly using our non-renewable resources ensures their availability. That means they are always available for us because we are using them responsibly, avoiding wastage, we are recycling them, and so we are always finding them for essential applications. So we are not using them for things that does not matter, because we know this thing can finish at any time. We are maximizing them. Any little we have, we maximize it to the fullest, and so that we can harness the energy there and get the best from it. And it also provides a smoother transition to renewable energy resources. In the case of, I made mention of biofuel and fossil fuel. Instead of using your fossil fuel to generate electricity, we can, as we are trying to maximize this, we are also transitioning into renewable and energy resources, just like the biofuel. So you are managing your fossil fuel, and you're also looking out into renewable resources too that can generate the same thing that you have for your fossil fuel, such as the biofuel. So what are the importance of renewable resources? The importance of renewable resources. Number one is sustainability. And renewable resources are naturally replenished over time. We already know this. Within a short time, making them sustainable for long-term use. They can be used indefinitely without depleting their availability or harming the environment. Number two, we have environmental benefits. Renewable resources have minimal environmental impacts compared to non-renewable resources. If we're going to look at our sunlight, for example, and we are going to take our fossil fuel, that is sunlight for renewable resources, and fossil fuel for non-renewable resources. Our sunlight does not generate greenhouse gases, but our fossil fuel, they generate greenhouse gases, such as chlorofluorocarbon, that depletes the ozone layer. I mean to say ozone layer. It depletes the ozone layer, and when the ozone layer is depleted, it will have a negative effect on our environment. So our renewable resources, they generate little, that means they emit little or lower levels of these greenhouse gases, and they reduce pollution. Our sunlight, for example, there's no pollution coming from sunlight. Unlike fossil fuel, when you burn your fossil fuel in form of petroleum and in form of others, you know that when a car is moving, it's generating smoke. Smoke is coming out and it's going into the sky and causing so many pollution and the rest. But our renewable resources they reduce pollution and they help mitigate climate change. Energy independence, that's the next one we are considering. By enhancing renewable resources locally, countries can reduce their reliance on imported fossil fuels. In Nigeria, we're so lucky that we have fossil fuel, but we do not have refinery until recently when Dangote had one in Lagos. So now, if we are going to diversify and look into renewable resources, such as the biofuel that I talked about, or the sunlight, or our wind, and we convert them to what can be used. You can see that it will reduce our dependence on imported fossil fuels or imported petroleum. So because we are known by now that our petroleum is gotten from fossil fuel, it's part of the oil. I told us earlier on that fossil fuel is divided into the coal, the oil, and the other. So you can see that our petroleum is part of the oil, and if we can shift our dependency from fossil fuel to other renewable resources, we are going to be it's going to provide energy security for us as a country, and it's going to reduce vulnerability to price fluctuations and geopolitical tensions. Community empowerment. Renewable resources can be enhanced at the local level, allowing communities to generate their own energy and become more self-reliant. For example, the wind turbine. You can see in some communities they have it, not in Nigeria though, and it has helped them to harness the locally, and it has allowed them to generate their own energy without being dependent on the larger community, on the larger scale. And also in some communities that they have water, they generate their own electricity by themselves. So it has empowered that community to promote energy access and reduce disparities in energy distribution. So let's look at the importance of non-renewable resources. We have energy generation just as we have to in our renewable resources. Non-renewable resources, particularly fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gases. As I said earlier on, do not forget that our petroleum is gotten from fossil fuel. And fossil fuel, they are generated, I'm just trying to do a recap, from ancient plants and animals that have been worked upon by heat and pressure over a long period of time, can take up to 1 million years. So they're generated into fossil fuel, which we cannot harness like coal, our oil, and natural gases. So they have been the primary source of energy for industrialization and modern living. In some places where you see generating plants, they either use your diesel or natural gases or even petroleum. So it generates energy. They have played a significant role in powering economies and supporting technological advancements. We also have industrial uses. Non-renewable resources serve as raw materials for various industries. For example, our fossil fuels are used in manufacturing processes, chemical productions, and as feedstock for plastics and other material. I know you're surprised that so we get our plastic too from fossil fuel. Yes, and they can be used to produce some other chemicals also. Also in transportation, our non-renewable resources are vital for transportation, providing fuel for cars, airplanes, ships, and other vehicles. So they are in a way, it's part of us every time. It's not something that we can just, how will I put it now? It's not something that we can just put aside. It's what we use. We use them every day. So if we are going to be mobile to enable global mobility, that is moving from one place to another, it is being facilitated by non-renewable resources, largely by them, and that is the fossil fuel. In your fossil fuel, you're going to get your petroleum, you're going to get your diesel and other gases that are used for the transportation, or that are used in the process of transport, that provide fuels for these various transportations. Also in construction and infrastructure, non-renewable resources such as your metals, your minerals, and aggregates are essential for construction and infrastructure development. They are used in building roads, in buildings, even when we are building the roads too. These things are used there. When we are building bridges, we have them there too, and the other structures. And also in medical and pharmaceutical applications, non-renewable resources play a crucial role in the healthcare sector. They are used in medical equipment, pharmaceuticals, and various medical procedures, contributing to advancements in healthcare and improving the quality of life. Also, they are of economic importance. Non-renewable resources have significant economic value, both in terms of revenue generation and employment. If you remember, I told us that if people that work in this maybe the fossil fuel and work at the refinery, it's a form of employment for them, and as they work, is generating revenue. We go over to the filling station to get this fuel. Is generating revenue for that country, so it's of economic importance in the sense that it generates revenue and also a source of employment. So from the extraction to the processing and distribution, they create jobs across these various sectors and they contribute to the economic growth. So we have looked at renewable and non-renewable resources. Very quickly, I want us to go use the ExamGuide app to check out some questions in line with what we have learned today. Don't forget that if you do not, I just want to use this medium to tell you that if you don't have this app yet, quickly go over and download it. You need it to practice. It's not just enough for you to learn. When you learn, you practice this stuff so that it can be part of you. So when you get to the ExamGuide app, go to basic science, that is this topic once again. Then you select your topic of interest. In this case, I've selected it, and our topic of interest is renewable and non-renewable resources. You select the year that you want. In this case, I selected random. I just want to pick some random questions. Then you get started. Let's check out some of these questions. Number one, we have, which of these is a source of renewable energy? Which of these is a source of renewable energy? We have option A is wood, option B is petrol, option C is coal, option D is water, option E is crude oil. So let's go through them one after the other. The first thing we are going to do is to classify them into their various categories, either renewable or non-renewable. Let's go to our wood. Where do we get our wood from? From the forest. So is it a source of renewable energy? Okay, let's go to B, petrol. Petrol, you even know that petroleum is gotten from fossil fuel, so it is a non-renewable energy. That is striked out. Our coal is gotten from where? From fossil fuel too, because I told us earlier that our fossil fuel is divided into three: the oil, the natural gases, and the coal. So coal is a non-renewable source of energy. We have D, water. Okay, we're coming back to this. And we have a crude oil. Crude oil is under a fossil fuel, so it's a non-renewable energy. So the right answer here is D, water is a source of non-renewable energy. Through water, we can generate electricity, either from ocean or dams or river. We can use them. So it's a source of renewable energy. We have another question here. It says, which of the following sources of energy is renewable? Which of the following sources of energy is renewable? We have A, crude oil, we have B, wind, we have C, nuclear, we have D, coal, and E, wood. So we're going to check through them and classify them as we earlier did in the previous question. A, crude oil. Crude oil is a non-renewable resources, so it's striked out. Wind, we're coming back to this. Let's go to nuclear. Nuclear is a radioactive, so they are gotten from radioactive, so it is a non-renewable source of energy. D, coal. Coal also is a non. So the right answer here is our wind. Wind is a source of renewable energy. Wind is a source of renewable energy. So you can tap into the power of the wind using your wind turbine. We're going to look at the last question. After now, you can still go through other questions because we have more questions. So you can still go through them and practice with them. We have an example of renewable energy is A, wind, B, wood, C, kerosene, D, coal, and E, petrol. It's just like the previous one, but we're just looking for an example of renewable energy, which is A, wind. Wind is an example of renewable energy. So we have come to the end of this class, and I'll just do a brief recap. Today we have looked at renewable and non-renewable resources, and we understand that renewable resources are resources that can easily replace themselves. They can replenish themselves within a short period of time, while non-renewable are those that cannot easily be replaced within a short period of time. Renewable are limitless, that means they are unlimited. Non-renewable are limited, so they can be finished. And we looked at the examples of renewable energy, such as the wind, sunlight, water. Also, we looked at the examples of non-renewable energy, like the minerals and our fossil fuel. Thank you for participating in today's class. You can practice more questions using the ExamGuide app. The app scores and gives detailed explanations of all the questions at the end of your practice test. You can also learn a particular topic of interest with different modes, like study modes, mock modes, and practice modes. It has other features that make learning fun. It is a must for all serious students. Download from www.examguide.com if you don't have it yet. See you in the next class. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell, and share the video with others that will benefit from it. Bye for now.